Welcome to the United States Grand Prix Sprint Race stream. Hopefully, I'm coming out loud and proud, where we will be commentating slash talking about the sprint race at the US Grid at the USGP. It is absolutely brilliant. The fact that I can make it is, well, let's just say I am very super impressed with myself. So let's then quickly have a look at what is meant to be the grid, albeit it has changed. We'll get into that in a bit. So we've got Verstappen on pole. What a lap. Because I'm not sure that Red Bull was really capable of getting pole position. In second is Russell. Third is Leclerc. Fourth is Norris. Fifth is Carlos Sainz. Sixth is Hulkenberg. Seventh is Hamilton. Eighth was Magnussen. We had Tsunoda. Yeah, Tsunoda. The man that knocked out Sergio Perez. Will Sergio still be around? Probably, if I am honest. If I'm honest, yeah, he probably is going to be around, which for Perez fans, that's great, isn't it? Let's be honest. So, after Perez, who's 11th, we've got Gasly in 12th. Colapinto in 10th. Colapinto showing up Alex Albon, who got all the flustered and decided to spin. Now, we then have Gasly in 12th, as I mentioned. Lance Stroll in 13th. Fernando Alonso 14th. How did that happen? Well, Fernando Alonso got a time disallowed. And that's something not 15th place is too unfamiliar with, because Liam Lawson got a time disallowed, as did Oscar of the Piastri. 17th is Ocon. 18th, Alexander Albon. 19th, Bottas. 20th, Zhou. However, there has been an update. And basically the main update is a certain man is starting from the pit lane, and that's going to be none other than Alexander Albon. We are 8 minutes-ish, give or take, away from the sprint. A lot has been said about the bib/bibgate going into the United States Grand Prix. That seems to be, well, they've wiped the floor with that now. It's swept under the floor. I don't think I can come up with too many other analogies for that. But yeah, it has been kind of like swept under the carpet, let's say then. Under the bib, under the tea tray. At the moment, the issue being is Zach Brown, he was interviewed by Sky. I watched the interview a couple of minutes ago. Still unhappy, rightly or wrongly. Is he doing that on purpose to unsettle Red Bull? Maybe, more than likely. But the issue he has is, like we said the other day, why does this thing need to be sealed? Why, this mechanism where supposedly inside the cockpit you can move the tea tray, not the whole floor, and that's quite important. Not the whole floor, just the tea tray that you can move. And quite rightly, Zach Brown is saying, why does it have to be? Why do we have to? Why does it have to be sealed? Red Bull have then made admissions that they've had this potentially for years. Therefore, questions coming out. Oh, pray tell, have Red Bull been using this item for years? And therein lies the issue. If you remember, Caesar's wife should always be above suspicion. Sadly, no Formula One team is. I mean, McLaren have cheated in the past. Ferrari have been known to do it. #EngineGate. Bargeboard Gate, if you want to go back as far as 1999. The Alpine team / Renault team in 2008. Who could forget that cheating allegation where Nelson Piquet punked his car perfectly for him to help Fernando Alonso win the Grand Prix with that safety car coming out. Other teams, Williams have been fined before. I think Brazilian Grand Prix 1995. I think it was something to do with fuel. I'm not too sure at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Yes, that has happened. Benetton again in 1994 with option 13. Now, if you're not sure what option 13 was, well, option 13 was a special mechanism on their steering wheel. And the previous year, in 1993, we had active suspension, more importantly, traction control. And that's something in 1994 that Ayrton Senna was absolutely convinced that Benetton were doing. That was option 13, the traction control. But like the Red Bull bib, the raising up and down of the bib, where people have suggested maybe you could do it between qualifying and the race, and we'll get into maybe in a bit, but it's kind of like a prove it, prove that we're using it, and they can't. So even with Zach Brown saying in his interview, "Oh, we'll look back," you can't. It's gonna be difficult. The sad thing, and once again, as I mentioned in our video, the biggest person I feel sorry for is Max Verstappen, simply because he has won all these championships, and for some fans, there's going to be these, quite wrongly in some cases, there's going to be these question marks about his championships now, because we got the braking in Red Bull the minute that got taken off, around China allegedly, around the Miami Grand Prix. Then Red Bull suddenly got slow. Max Verstappen, he can't win a normal championship. I think he's definitely good enough to win a championship. Just look at 2021. But then the big part in 21, 22, you got the cost cap. And not Max Verstappen's fault, that. Definitely 110% Red Bull. What is going on with Red Bull this year? What on earth? But they appear to be back. Max Verstappen on pole for the sprint race for the 2024 United States Grand Prix. So when we look at the grid, and I'll use this, we've got Verstappen and Russell. I think the interesting thing is going to be, obviously, the start. We've only got, we've got a handful of laps, I think 19. Can George Russell nip on the inside of Max Verstappen? That's something I think it was Charles Leclerc tried to do, or Sainz tried to do last year, and kind of failed. But I think Verstappen starts on the inside, so Russell's going to have to get a really good start. Could I see these two people coming together? Absolutely, I can. Do I want to? No, not really. Having said that, it's gonna give us lots of talking points for the United States Grand Prix. Absolutely, it's going to give us lots of talking points. So I guess we'll have to see. But there we go. So we're just counting down to the sprint race right now. We got the introduction, the beautiful Formula One music. Because I'm going to transition to the full screen. I'm not going to show anything. The one issue that F1 don't like you to do is simply watch. Have their whole F1 with the track with the cars going around on their day. They kind of get a bit upset about that, especially if you use the official one. So unfortunately, it's just going to be my face talking about the sprint race. Sorry about that. But nevertheless, we've gone down the grid, which is potentially going to be interesting. Milestones and records, which could be broken at the United States Grand Prix as we ramp up towards the race. So it's if you want to know what number championship event it is, it's the 1120th World Championship event in Formula One history. The 2024 United States Grand Prix is going to be the 53rd United States Grand Prix since the event was first held, but that's all the way back in 1908, which is before Formula One was, well, I don't want to say invented, but made. That was 1950. It's going to be the 12th held at arguably one of the best American tracks that has held Formula One. And it's going to be the 78th time F1 has raced in the United States. Hamilton, if you want to know, he's going to make his 351st Grand Prix start at this year's Grand Prix. That's technically going to be tomorrow because this is the sprint race. Alex Albon's going to become the 80th driver to make 100 Grand Prix starts here as well. Max Verstappen makes his 181st start with Red Bull at the 2024 United States Grand Prix. That sees him overtake Michael Schumacher for second on the list for most F1 starts as a single constructor. Alex Albon's going to make his 62nd start with Williams. I mean, all these stats, it's absolutely amazing, isn't it? What about the circuit? Well, let's have a look at the circuit, shall we? Or talk about the circuit. If I just transfer you to here, as you may be able to see, the track length is 5.513 kilometres. The race length is 308. The laps tomorrow, at least, is going to be 56. But there are 20 turns. As I mentioned, it was first opened in 2012. Races held, 11 races. Track record, Valtteri Bottas in 2019 of a 132.029. Imagine that. Just 19 laps. So the engines have started. We are about to set sail for the United States Grand Prix. The lap record is Charles Leclerc, though, all the way in 2019 on a 136.169, and it is the sixth different circuit, the sixth different venue to host the United States Grand Prix, which I think is fairly interesting. Let's go, shall we then? So, the cars are there. We can see Max Verstappen on pole position. Next to him is George Russell. I was wrong. George Russell is going to have the inside line, assuming he gets a good start. It is a hot day. What's interesting with Mercedes, in the past, they've had tyre issues switching those tyres on. So, they've just started their parade lap. The formation lap, if you will. Once again, with Alex Albon starting, I think, from the pit lane. He did have that big spin, didn't he, in sprint qualifying, trying to beat Colapinto. Colapinto has really seems to have Alexander Albon's head slightly rattled, if you think about it. Liam Lawson, though, he got his time deleted. He's starting quite far back, as we mentioned. Now he's starting as far back, let me see, as 15th. Where Tsunoda's 9th. In the same realm as Daniel Ricciardo? Yes. I don't think you can have a go at him too much. This is his first race, his first weekend back. He's got 6 to prove himself. Will Liam Lawson be taking Sergio Perez's seat? Who knows? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But bearing in mind, Sergio Perez, although he's 11th, he didn't make it into the top 10. So bearing in mind, his teammate, nearly a second faster than him, did make it into the top 10. In fact, he made it on pole. But there are many Sergio Perez fans in COTA, in Texas, quite rightly so, because it's not a million miles away from the Mexican border. Also, there's quite a few Red Bull fans, Lando fans, Lewis Hamilton fans. Sadly, no Logan Sargent. Oh, there were... but the pause was trying to listen to Lewis Hamilton's team radio, but I don't think we didn't get anything in the end, sadly. Max, I tell you what, if that is Max, he's got quite a lead already on the formation over George Russell, but he is now slowing down. If you remember back in 2021, it was Lewis Hamilton that purposely had a very slowy down, was quite far back from Max Verstappen on the formation, like significantly Saudi Arabia, to the point where either messing with his head or something to do with the tyres and the way they're preparing the tyres so he get a better start. And once again, still, George Russell is a good 8 and 9 car lengths back, as we now see the team bosses, Toto Wolff, Fred Vasseur, potentially the present Hamilton's boss, and potentially the new, well, not potentially, he's going to be Hamilton's boss next year. Once again, lots of Hamilton's fans. There's Christian Horner looking slightly concerned. I think you're going to be concerned. I mean, let's be honest. The start of the race is always going to be the most nerve-wracking at all, as they are now slowly lining up on that grid. I think the local time is 2 minutes past 1. So that it was the formation app was off at 1 o'clock. And it's now 2 minutes past 1 as we're watching Kevin Magnussen. I think where did Kevin Magnussen qualify? I mean, both the Hasses did really well. Magnussen 8th, Hulkenberg 6th. I mean, in America, their home Grand Prix. Let's be fair, Gene Haas could not be happier. I've always wondered, because Haas have had an absolutely fantastic season. Bear in mind, a lot of people suggested, you're going to be the worst cars. You're not going to be very good. Wah. But they've been really good. They have, haven't they? Since Gunther Steiner went. Since Gunther Steiner left. I would love to know. It would be really interesting to know what Gunther Steiner feels about how he feels about the fact that Haas has done really well so far this year. They are still lining up. Is this absolutely taking an age, or is it just because I've decided to comment? I decided to talk about it. We have Oscar Piastri right at the back lining up. The medical car, the beautiful green Aston Martin green medical car is lined up. We've got 3, 4, 5 lights. We're about to launch, and in the true my walk fashion, it is go! Max Verstappen looks like he's got a decent start. It looks like George Russell is going to have to defend from one of the Ferraris, but it's very much Max Verstappen in the lead. George Russell just about second, but he's been squeezed, and I think it looks like it could be Lando Norris in second. They are side by side, and it is pretty much aggressive, but well done. Lando Norris is in second place. Now they've got the issue here is now there's well over a second now between Lando Norris, it looks like, and Max Verstappen, but this is absolutely what Lando Norris needs. And Max Verstappen, once again, an absolutely fantastic start. George Russell now seeming to struggle. I'm not too sure where Lewis Hamilton is. He's still there. We have got down the inside, it looks like Yuki Tsunoda on one of the Haas. The Haas is absolutely wide. I mean, to be fair, he's so wide, he's gone to Mexico and back. But the Haas is now back on the track with Yuki Tsunoda right behind him. That seems to be the main thing. But no, one of the Ferraris has absolutely dive-bombed Leclerc. Dive-bombed George Russell, sorry. But George Russell then comes back. And they're really side by side. The Ferraris on the inside. We are in the Mickey Mouse section now of the track. And once again, they are still side by side. This is absolutely great stuff. But by doing this, both of them are letting Lando Norris and Max Verstappen absolutely get away. And this is all happening on the first lap of the sprint. And I'm getting a dry mouth. So it's Verstappen from Norris, from George Russell, from Charles Leclerc, from Carlos Sainz, from Lewis Hamilton, Magnussen 7th, Tsunoda 8th, Hulkenberg 9th, Sergio Perez 10th. Okay, well done, Sergio. You got past Colapinto. The difference in time is 0.9 seconds between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. But yeah, I thought, I was like George Russell, surely he's going to do well. Hamilton did end up gaining a place. Up in 6th, he started 7th, didn't he? Now's the test for Lando Norris. And Max Verstappen in qualifying, if you look at qualifying, his car looked a lot more planted. The Lando Norris looked absolutely on edge. The Mercedes looked slightly on edge, but everyone is saying Mercedes, they're the fastest car. They're the fastest car. Lando Norris now 0.8 seconds behind Max Verstappen, as we are now in the DRS zone, the first DRS zone of the race, which is that long back straight in the in Kota. He's now 6/10 behind, but it's now the two Ferraris that are fighting for each other side by side. Leclerc just about hanging on to 4th place there. 6/10 for Lando Norris now. Lewis Hamilton still in 6th, and the two Haas drivers seem to be fighting each other. I think Magnussen's now. Carlos Sainz on Charles Leclerc, but he completely honed it coming out of the corner. And Charles Leclerc, it would appear that Charles Leclerc is back in 4th. A ding-dong battle, these two. Neither of them are really fighting for the title. Carlos Sainz is like, I'm going to Williams next year. I'm not going to be nice. And no, he is not going to be nice. As once again, we've got Verstappen leading Lando Norris by about 0.8 of a second, albeit we are on the start-finish straight. Lando Norris is as well. To forget Lando Norris, because now Carlos Sainz has gone on the inside of Charles Leclerc. But once again, Charles Leclerc passes Carlos Sainz. Oh, this is absolutely amazing. I wonder what Lewis Hamilton is thinking, because he is a good nearly 2 seconds behind these two at the moment. But Verstappen leads, Norris 2nd, Russell 3rd, Leclerc 4th. And fastest lap, also George Russell. This is going to be interesting now if he can catch Lando Norris and pass. But Lando Norris, and at that point, if he is not going to be able to pass Max, he really needs to stay within that DRS range, because he's going to be in danger of ragged Russell. That's what he kind of was at the first. Turn 11, leaving the track and gaining an advantage. That's been noted for by the race stewards. I think it was Magnus. I think it was one of the Haas drivers, either Magnussen or Hulkenberg. I'm not too sure about that, but things are calming down now a tiny bit. But we've got almost another dive bomb by Carlos Sainz. These two, if they keep at it, you've got to wonder, is there going to be some kind of incident between the two of them? Pray tell. Now, George Russell with just about within DRS range of Lando Norris. Lando Norris now 9/10 away from Max Verstappen. Max really needs to break the DRS. It is powerful here. The main start finish straight, though, incidentally, has been lowered by 95 metres. Leclerc coming out saying, we're fighting us, essentially suggesting that by fighting ourselves, we're not doing particularly well for the actual race. So that seems to have calmed down now. Fastest lap, though, is Max Verstappen. He's on 8 points. Lando Norris is on 7. So he's not missing too much. But let's be honest, it's not really ideal. But well done. Lando Norris in 2nd. At the moment, he's doing, I'd like to think, the absolute minimum. The issue is going to be George Russell. How fast is that Mercedes? Now, we're getting a replay of the start. Initially, George Russell, the initial getaway, the split second, he wasn't too bad. And then he just kind of got, I don't know, he was too gentle in that first corner, completely got mugged by Lando Norris. And then the two Ferraris were like, yeah, see, we're going to try and get past you too. Luckily for George Russell, they did not. But after that, I think that initial getaway, the reaction, it did appear that George Russell reacted a tiny bit quicker than Max Verstappen. But in spite of that, well done to Max Verstappen. He is still, from pole, leading the United States sprint race. So not bad at all. But the two Ferraris on the replay cam are absolutely still going hammer and tong. What I don't understand is why Lewis Hamilton is not absolutely all over them. So who is ahead first? I think it is still Charles Leclerc ahead of Carlos Sainz, but only just. But they are really fighting each other. Hamilton now quite far back from this bunch. Either he's saving his tyres or he's not particularly happy. He was fast in qualifying, but then what happened? Max Verstappen has now finally broken DRS by 1.3 seconds, but it is George Russell on the move. And that's that is fairly significant now, because now George Russell, he said he wants to win this race. We are currently on lap 5. If he's going to win this race, or at least try and fight for the race lead, he's absolutely going to have to get past Lando Norris, and he kind of needs to do it in the next couple of laps to give himself a good number of laps to try and get Mr. Verstappen, because he's now 1.3 seconds. And moving on, but interestingly, George Russell only 6-7 tenths behind Lando Norris. And we know, if any of you looked on the onboard lap with George Russell, with the ghost of Max Verstappen on Sky Sports, they may have done it on their YouTube page, that Mercedes was fast in a straight line. So lap 2, with Sergio Perez deciding to... he kind of like locks up at the hairpin at the end of that long straight, just like the other two drivers, and then he smacks into them. Yeah. That's Sergio Perez. But now we have... George Russell is... Sadly for Norris fans, he's absolutely all over. He is all over Lando Norris like an absolutely bad suit. And... Wow, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz almost banging wheels. I can see this. I can almost see this ending in tears, but no, somehow. These two... If this carries on like this and they don't hit each other, it's going to be a near miracle. They are absolutely going, once again, as I said, hammer and tongs. Interestingly, Charles Leclerc is now 1.7 seconds behind George Russell. Hamilton, 1.1. No, it's Carlos Sainz now ahead. My mistake. Carlos is just going crazy, isn't it? It's so hard for commentators, I imagine. Carlos Sainz in 4th. Charles Leclerc in 5th. Lewis Hamilton, 1.2 seconds away. This is the lap now. George Russell absolutely needs to nail Lando Norris if he wants any chance of winning the United States sprint. To be fair, if I was Lewis, if I was Max Verstappen, I had George Russell coming to pass me. It's going to be interesting. How much are you really going to fight? George Russell has nothing to lose. Max Verstappen has everything to lose. Because if you remember, qualifying is only a few hours away from here. So the mentality would be of both Lando and Max, if you've got a much faster car. So... George Russell behind Lando Norris. We're talking about half a second. The DRS is out. Lando Norris is vulnerable. George Russell is going to try and go on the outside. Lando Norris is trying to block him, and block him he does. But has George Russell got the switcheroo? Yes, but he does not have enough traction. He simply doesn't have enough traction. But now George Russell is trying to now go around the outside, but it's not happening. And these two now are costing each other so much time. George Russell, he pushes George Russell off the track, does Lando Norris, but he absolutely has to. George Russell is thinking now, he is now 2 seconds away from Max Verstappen. He's got to think, I need to get him. I need to get him now. It needs to be now. It needs to be soon. But because of all that tangling and George Russell trying to get past him, he is now 0.8 seconds behind Lando Norris. Maybe he should have waited until he got into the first part of the race. Lando Norris has just got a message saying Verstappen damaging rears more than we are. I don't know why. I don't know how they know that, because he's absolutely fighting with George Russell. The two Ferraris are now catching Lando Norris. Lando Norris becoming a bit, sadly in a way, a bit like the Trulli train, if you remember from the early 2000s. Lando Norris looks like he's beginning to hold up George Russell, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. if you remember, Sainz and Leclerc were really, really fighting earlier, and Sainz ended up getting the better of Leclerc, really aggressive. I mean, once again, as I mentioned, it was just so lucky that neither of them hit each other. So at the moment, Norris is only dropping 1 point to Max Verstappen in the championship. Not ideal, but bear in mind he qualified 4th. Verstappen qualified 1st. It's kind of what you want. So George Russell still, we've had the back straight, and George Russell still nice and calm, still doing good. Oscar Piastri in 13th, and he is about to pass Lance Stroll. So not the. Well, he can be quite hard to pass, can he? Because he's absolutely captain unpredictable. Can Oscar Piastri get in the top 10? He is now behind Colapinto, and then ahead of Colapinto is Sergio Perez, so a man that started quite far back in one of the fastest cars to get Sergio. What is Sergio Perez still doing in Formula 1? Come on, Sergio, show us what you got. Please. Okay, Norris now 1.9 seconds. George Russell just about out of DRS range of Lando Norris now. So Lando Norris, is he now going to be able to catch? This is going to be really interesting. As you may be aware, after the sprint race, the parc fermé, which means park closed conditions, where you can't make changes to the car, that's what you used to be able to do last year. This year, after the sprint race, you can make changes to the car going into qualifying. But after your car goes out for their first lap of qualifying, that's it. Unless you want to start from the pit lane, you are not making any more changes. So yeah, Martin Brundle just saying Hamilton 6 seconds on the lead. What is going on? He does not look good at all. Norris 1.5 behind Max now, which is interesting. Max really was pulling away. Did he take too much out of his tyres? Try and break that DRS zone in respect of Lando Norris. I guess we're going to have to see. So it's George Russell just 1.2 seconds, so 0.2 of a second outside DRS range of Lando Norris. Alonso in 17th, and he's about to no, not really. He sort of half-heartedly overtakes Liam Lawson. It looked a bit interesting. Apparently Liam Lawson is an IDIOT. Is that how you spell it? IDIOT, yeah. According to Alonso, but there we go. And that's how Oscar Piastri got through. There's a replay of Oscar Piastri basically doing both Fernando Norris, Fernando Alonso, and Lawson in about 2 corners. But we're now looking at Oscar Piastri, and he is in 12th position. This guy is doing really well. There's Oscar Piastri going. He did push whoever was in 11th kind of out the way, somewhat rudely. But to the front of the grid, 1.5 seconds in between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. We are now getting about halfway through the sprint race. It looks like it's Max's to lose at the moment. But Lando Norris slowly coming in. George Russell's kind of given up the fight. And it all seems to be settling down. Sort of. I'll tell you what, if Lando Norris ends up winning this sprint race, I mean, that would be absolutely amazing. Hamilton is 8 seconds behind the Ferraris. I don't get it. He was so much faster in qualifying than we thought. Everyone thought, this is the man, he could potentially get pole, but he didn't. So this track, it does have a lot of high-speed corners. Very Silverstone-y from that first sector. And then we've got that long straight, and then really, really Mickey Mouse. And oh my gosh, one of the Ferraris has just got past George Russell. And that's Carlos Sainz round the outside. Has George Russell completely ruined his tyres? That's going to be the big question here. Okay, what's interesting is they're staying at Sky Sports. Track temperatures are about 7 degrees higher. Is that hurting the Mercedes? Is that the reason why Hamilton is so slow? As we know, these tyres are so sensitive. Martin Brundle has suggested that it has been that was George Russell, by hunting down Lando Norris, trying so hard to get past him. Has he now taken everything out of his tyres? And is that why Lewis Hamilton is so slow? Because he's looking after his tyres. But he's 5 seconds now behind Charles Leclerc with 9 laps left. He's not going to catch him at all in that, unless well, something. Lando Norris now 1.2 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Now, either Max Verstappen is looking after his tyres, taking it easy, because he's not going to want to be less than a second behind, have Lando Norris less than a second behind. Well, they're saying in 3 laps' time, Norris is going to be right on Max Verstappen, but how accurate are these? Battle for first, striking distance, cringe. I guess it looks good on TV though, doesn't it, with those graphics? So we have Russell is now in a Ferrari sandwich. He's saying his front left is toasted. Charles Leclerc dive bombs him down the inside. George Russell tries to resist, but he doesn't. He absolutely doesn't. And yeah, I mean, his tyres are gone. We've gone from Verstappen, looking good, to George Russell maybe winning. Now, Lando Norris, he's lost a couple of tenths the last lap round to Max Verstappen. This definitely looks like a race of looking after your tyres. I don't think Lando Norris has an answer to Max. I think Max has looked after his tyres really well, it appears. And the minute Lando got within about just over a second of him, he's like, okay, I'm going to squeeze now. I'm going to go faster. We will no doubt have to see. Hamilton 4.2 now behind his own teammate. We've got Oscar Piastri in 11th, but he's now fighting a certain Argentinian in a Williams. I've absolutely no doubt at some point he's going to get by him. Piastri will get by Colapinto. Sergio Perez chasing Tsunoda, the man that knocked him out of qualifying, the man in the sister team, the man in the slower team. Just saying. Okay, Piastri's got a penalty. It's going to be a 5-second. It'll be gaining an advantage. So that's slightly upsetting, but I don't think Oscar was really looking at getting a. I don't think he was expecting points too much. The reason he's got a 5-second penalty, he was forced another car off the track. So let's look at the position, shall we? Verstappen, Norris, Sainz, Leclerc, Russell, Hamilton, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Perez, Colapinto, Piastri, Stroll, Gasly, Ocon, Lawson, Alonso, Albon, Bottas, and last but not least, Zhao. Max now again 1.9 seconds. So yeah, he did have some extra in the tank, didn't he? He's going to be all smiles after this race. McLaren, I think they'll be happy if Lando can finish there. So Charles Leclerc has now done the fastest lap, which is interesting. So Hamilton now 2.7 seconds behind George Russell. I mean, yeah, Hamilton, they just mentioned Hamilton took 1.3 seconds out of Russell on the last lap. So maybe he was looking after his tyres, unlike most of the others. And we're just seeing Carlos Sainz dive bomb George Russell. That Mickey Mouse end of the track is absolutely crazy, isn't it? If you've ever driven at F1 2024, I have. If you looked at our lap at the US Grand Prix, I tell you what, when we're trying to do the track guide, it was such a struggle to go around. It was just not good at all. So Max has a 2.1 second lead, but it's Charles Leclerc who's currently doing the fastest lap. Lewis Hamilton just 2.3 seconds in 6th behind his teammate, who is currently 5th. Magnussen 7th, Hulkenberg 8th. What an absolutely fantastic race for Haas. Perez is only 4 tenths behind Tsunoda, and he's trying to pass Tsunoda, and he does so, albeit it's for 10th in one of the best cars. Your guy's leading, and you're fighting for 9th and 10th. I mean, yeah. Sorry, Perez fans. Oh, Tsunoda just absolutely dive bombed Sergio Perez. Now remember, these two are potentially gunning for position next year. That's what's so interesting about this fight. So Tsunoda's going to have to. Tsunoda is going to have DRS. Norris now 2.3 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Red Bull, in the hands of Max at least, do have a very good car. As Tsunoda tries to go around the outside of turn 1 on Perez, but sadly for him, he locks up. This is all being watched by Oscar Piastri in 11th. Lewis Hamilton, watch, he's now 1.2 seconds behind George Russell. Yes, he did very much look after his tyres. And interestingly, Charles Leclerc just 0.8 seconds behind Carlos Sainz. So it looks like we're not going to get a battle for the win. It's now, we're lap 13 out of 19, 2.3 seconds. But we are going to get battled between both sets of teammates of Ferrari, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, and Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. So it's going to be interesting. And if you want to know, it's Oscar Piastri. I think he's in 12th at the moment. Got a penalty for forcing another driver off the track, which is kind of sad. But here we go. Now it is side by side with Piastri and Yuki Tsunoda in the hairpin down at the end of the back straight. But it's Yuki Tsunoda that just about resists him. But Piastri once again trying to go the long way around the outside. Yuki Tsunoda is saying, "No way are you passing me, Oscar. Not today." But Oscar Piastri then tries to go round that very turn 8-esque Turkey corner as they're coming into the final sector. We are now following, we're on board with Oscar Piastri. He's within about a couple of tenths of Yuki Tsunoda, albeit he made a bit of a mess of that final corner. And on the DRS it goes, on the ERS was going to go, if he's got any ERS. And once again, it's going to force Tsunoda to defend. He tries to, and round the outside, coming out of turn 1, it looks like Piastri's got the better grip, but pray tell, he couldn't quite get past Yuki Tsunoda, who once again is like saying, no, you are not passing me. So I think he's showing the Red Bull team that choose me, not Perez, not Lawson. And based on the season, they've just told Yuki Tsunoda to give back the position. I'm assuming that's potentially to Oscar Piastri, which is a bit strange. Is he going to do that, though? I don't know. But it's Oscar Piastri now on DRS. Yuki Tsunoda is defending, but Oscar Piastri on the outside, down at that hairpin at the end of that long straight. And once again, he can't find a way past the Japanese driver. He's driving absolutely brilliant, but now on the inside and now on the outside, once again, side by side. But no, says Yuki Tsunoda. I want that Red Bull seat, Oscar. I need to show everyone that I can hold up potentially the fastest car currently in Formula One. Well, at least the second fastest, because Lando Norris is second. Lando Norris, he's maintaining his 2.2 seconds, so it's enough to keep Max a bit worried if he makes a mistake. But I think he's under control. I think he's under control. So we've got, it's Verstappen on lap 15, Norris, Sainz, Leclerc, Russell, Hamilton, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Perez, and Tsunoda. That is your top 10 for the United States Grand Prix sprint race. As we are now with, I think it's either, well, it was with one of the Ferraris. They're about within a second of each other. I don't think they can just about, because just within DRS range. But it's one of those awkward. He's within DRS range, but you're not going to catch him come the end of the straights, which must be quite frustrating. Norris still 2.2 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton's pace is slowed again. He's now 1.6 behind George Russell, who incidentally is 7 seconds behind Leclerc. Now everyone's saying that the Ferrari is the fastest car. No, sorry, the Mercedes is the fastest car around here. Well, they're a bit wrong, aren't they? And we have Oscar Piastri still attempting to get past Yuki Tsunoda. It's at lap 16 out of 19. Not long to go, so I can finally have a rest from the talking, because this is way harder than I ever thought it was going to be. Turn 12. And that is the end. I think the end of the straight, leaving the track and gaining an advantage under investigation, and that's the Tsunoda Piastri incident. I think that might be more towards Tsunoda than not Oscar Piastri, but let's see, shall we? Now, it looks now finally Finally, Oscar Piastri gets past Yuki Tsunoda. Thank you very much. It has hurt him, though, because all of their infighting, where Tsunoda was right behind Sergio Perez, that's cost him. They are now 4.6 seconds. 4.6 seconds behind the battling Sergio Perez, who is 4.8 seconds behind the Haas. Both Haas better than beating the Red Bull at this stage. Bear in mind, Sergio Perez started, just outside the top 10? And he's not really done that much. So Hamilton now within DRS range of George Russell, who, let's be honest, finished second. The man who thought he could win the sprint. Mercedes need to have a good real look. It's their rear tyres on the Mercedes car that really seem to be suffering at the moment, and suffering it is. So Piastri now not really pulling away from Yuki Tsunoda, despite passing him at turn 1. And we are with Charles Leclerc, who is just coming out the final corner. So no further action for the Tsunoda Piastri incident. That's probably because Piastri's now passed. So there we go. What a sprint race! I mean, this is, to be fair, if you look behind Max Verstappen, who's made it kind of boring, but not that much because he's only 2.7 seconds in the lead. It's quite the interesting race. He's going to make quite the interesting qualifying session come about 10 o'clock, where I'm probably going to be shortly in bed after that. But there we go. So Hamilton on the radio. Just make sure you look after the car when racing. Okay, and that's they're talking about both George Russell and Lewis Hamilton racing. Hamilton instantly 0.8 seconds behind George Russell. I tell you what, if the race finishes like this, Piastri's unlikely to get points. This is going to be the first race in a long time that Red Bull outscore McLaren. Maybe. So Sainz is now 0.9 seconds behind Norris, who incidentally is 2.9 seconds behind Max Verstappen. They've told Russell to keep it nice and clean. I'm sure these two will. We're on lap 17 of 19, so we're slowly getting to the end of the sprint race. Hamilton now only half a second behind George Russell. Well, the two Saubers at the back, sadly. Alex Albon in 17th. It's Alonso in 18th. He's going to be really, really, really upset with that, isn't he? So, but it's both the Ferrari drivers now who seem to be the fastest, and it's not Max Verstappen. They did say Max doesn't have the fastest car, and it kind of rings true really because it's Leclerc with the fastest lap, and it's Sainz who's 0.8 seconds behind Lando Norris, which Lando Norris really is going to have to hold on this time, isn't he? He's absolutely going to have to hold on with all his might. Hamilton 0.8 seconds behind George Russell. I don't think there's going to be too much of a change there. Charles Leclerc, right, I tell you what, Charles Leclerc is absolutely right behind Carlos Sainz, but I think Carlos Sainz is going to say thank you to Lando because they've all got DRS, so it's kind of like a DRS train at the moment on the penultimate lap. It's going to be an interesting, I tell you what, we've got one lap left. Half a second now the Ferrari has caught. Hamilton told strap mode, and Hamilton said don't talk to me in the braking zone. Yeah, there we go. I tell you what, Lando Norris is really starting to struggle. It's going to be a really exciting last lap as Max Verstappen is just about round the last corner, starting his last lap. Lando Norris is just about to start his last lap, albeit Norris, Sainz and Leclerc all within a second of each other. Are we going to get a dive bomb by Carlos Sainz? No, we're not. But Lando Norris locks up. He locks up Lando Norris. No, this is the thing we're worried about. Lando Norris, is he? Does he just lose his head a tiny bit? And absolutely he has done, because now it's Charles Leclerc. Sainz is gone. He's not going to get Sainz back. It's now all about saving third place, not second place. And Max Verstappen is going to increase his championship by 2 points, not just the one. He's going to have to absolutely be on it. Oscar Piastri, though, with the fastest lap. So, I mean, it was that kind of dummy Carlos Sainz did in the first corner that whatever seemingly distracted Lando Norris. Here we go now. But luckily, what's going to save Norris for third is the fact that he's now in DRS behind Carlos Sainz, but not enough to get past Carlos Sainz, sadly. So, I mean, you got to say, men of the race, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, who now goes absolutely wide, and Charles Leclerc is all over him. So, I mean, they're talking. Oh, that was amazing. Leclerc got so close to Lando Norris, but we're seeing now Max Verstappen with a 3.7 second lead after 19 up. This is going to be his first victory for a long time, albeit it's a sprint race. He's won every sprint race so far this year, so he's doing good. Wins the sprint race, Max. Carlos Sainz is second, Lando Norris third, Charles Leclerc fourth, George Russell fifth, Lewis Hamilton sixth, Magnussen seventh, Hulkenberg eighth, Perez ninth, Piastri 10th, Tsunoda 11th. That's your top 11 at least. But that could have been a monumental crash. Christian seems to be quite happy that his man has actually won a race in spite of all the controversy. So we have Tsunoda 11th, Colapinto 12th, Stroll 13th, beating Alonso, Gasly 14th, Ocon 15th, Lawson 16th, Albon 17th, Alonso really disappointing 18th, Zhou 19th, and Bottas 20th. This has been the live stream for the US Grand Prix. I have the driest mouth ever. It feels like the Sahara Desert. If you liked what you saw, please give us a subscribe. That would be really nice. I am now going to drink about 5 gallons of water. Speak to you soon. Thank you very much. And breathe.